Winter has always been, a real test of the human body. Long before central heating, electric blankets or, synthetic insulation, people survived those brutal cold nights with systems refined through centuries of trial, error, and honestly lived experience. Today, a growing number of physicians over 50, particularly those trained before the age of hyperspecialization, are quietly returning to one of those systems, the traditional layered winter bed. Not as nostalgia, not as folklore, but really because it works. If you value historically proven survival knowledge, make sure you're subscribed to this channel, comment with your own experience, and give this video a like. The traditional winter bed was designed to regulate heat, not trap it. The core principle behind historical winter bedding was regulation, not suffocation. Pre-industrial Europeans understood that overheating at night was as dangerous as freezing. Excess sweat led to dampness, and, dampness led to hypothermia. The traditional bed setup used layered natural materials that allowed moisture to escape while retaining body heat. This is the same principle modern doctors now emphasize when treating sleep-related cold stress in older adults. Wool blankets, linen sheets, and breathable underlayers create a stable microclimate around the body. Heat stays close, moisture moves away, and circulation remains uninterrupted. In practice, this means placing a linen or cotton sheet directly against the skin, followed by 1 or 2 wool blankets, and then a heavier wool cover or quilt on top. No synthetic materials, no plastic-backed mattress covers. This setup allows the body to warm the space gradually without triggering night sweats. Physicians over 50 recognize this because they've seen the long-term effects of poor thermal regulation, joint stiffness, respiratory irritation, and disrupted sleep cycles. After 50, the body's ability to regulate temperature changes. Peripheral circulation slows, muscle mass declines, and the skin becomes less efficient at retaining warmth. Historical bedding systems accounted for this naturally. People slept higher off the ground, often on straw-filled mattresses or wooden frames, because cold rises from the floor. Doctors today actually advise much the same for older patients who are experiencing chronic cold sensitivity. Elevation can really make a difference. Back in medieval and early modern Europe, it was actually common practice to add a wool underblanket beneath the sleeper. This simple step helped reduce conductive heat loss into the mattress. The modern application is, honestly, pretty straightforward. Just place a dense wool blanket or pad directly on the mattress before you add any sheets. This single change can, quite dramatically, reduce nighttime heat loss without adding any extra bulk or weight. Physicians returning to this method, understand that warmth must come from below as much as above. Historical sources consistently emphasize protecting the extremities during sleep. Heat loss from the head, neck and feet was well understood long before modern physiology, actually. Nightcaps, wool socks and neck wraps were standard winter sleepwear. Today, doctors treating older adults with poor circulation quietly recommend the same approach, even if it, well, contradicts modern bedroom aesthetics. Sleeping with a lightweight wool cap or a scarf around the neck, helps stabilize core temperature and actually reduces those nighttime awakenings. Wool socks are also great, as they prevent peripheral heat loss without cutting off your circulation. Now, this is not about comfort alone. Maintaining a stable body temperature, well, it improves sleep depth, boosts immune response, and even supports joint recovery. These are outcomes that modern medicine measures, but interestingly enough, traditional living already solved these issues long ago. One of the most overlooked advantages of the traditional winter bed is adjustability. Instead of relying on just one heavy covering, sleepers would use multiple layers that could be shifted around during the night, all without fully exposing the body. This simple practice prevented sudden heat loss, which is honestly especially dangerous for older adults. These days, doctors recognize that abrupt temperature changes during sleep can contribute to cardiovascular strain and respiratory stress. Applying this idea today, well, it means using 3 to 4 breathable layers rather than just one thick comforter. If you wake up feeling warm, you simply fold back one layer instead of, tossing everything off at once. If the temperature drops toward morning, you pull it back without shock. This method keeps the body in a narrow thermal range all night, which is exactly what physicians aim for in sleep hygiene recommendations. Wool's ability to insulate even when damp was critical in historical winter survival. Breath vapor, minor perspiration, and ambient humidity were unavoidable. Wool retained warmth regardless. Doctors over 50, particularly those with experience in rural or military medicine, understand this property well. Synthetic bedding fails the moment moisture enters the system. For modern application, this means, prioritizing wool blankets over fleece or polyester. Linen or cotton should remain the base layer because, they wick moisture away from the skin. This combination mirrors centuries of European winter practice and aligns with modern understanding of thermoregulation. It is not fashionable, but honestly, it is effective. Historically, the winter bed did not exist in isolation. Bedrooms were smaller, doors were sealed, and drafts were blocked. These days, doctors who advise older patients often recommend, pretty much the same environmental controls. They suggest closing off unused rooms, reducing air movement at night, and allowing the bed to become the primary warm zone in the room. In practice today, this means placing rugs under the bed, using heavy curtains, and, if possible, positioning the bed away from exterior walls. All of these changes help reduce radiant heat loss, and really they allow the traditional bedding system to function just as it was intended. So, this is how folks managed to get through those chilly winters without burning fuel all night long. Older physicians have long understood that keeping artificial heat running constantly dries out the air, irritates the lungs, and even disrupts a good night's sleep. The traditional winter bed, on the other hand, lets you keep the room cooler while still maintaining body warmth. This approach, well, it reduces strain on the respiratory system and actually improves sleep quality. Plus, it cuts down on energy use, which is becoming more and more important as winters grow increasingly unpredictable. Applying this means, well, setting the room cooler and letting the bedding do the work. This approach mirrors historical practice and actually aligns with modern medical advice for healthier sleep environments. This knowledge remains relevant because, winter still kills through neglect, not cold alone. Cold does not kill quickly. Instead, it weakens, exhausts, and, it compounds existing conditions. The traditional winter bed was designed quite thoughtfully to prevent that slow decline. Doctors over 50 recognize this because they've treated its consequences. Returning to these methods is not regression, it is correction. If you are living through winter now, whether in a rural home, an older building, or a grid-dependent environment, this knowledge is directly applicable. Build your bed as people did when failure meant death. Use materials that breathe, layer intelligently, protect extremities, and control your sleeping environment. This is survival knowledge refined by centuries and quietly validated by modern medicine. If you found this valuable, subscribe to Warfield Prepper Chronicles, like this video, and share it with someone who takes winter seriously. This channel exists to preserve what works, not what trends.